Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. If you've ever spent weeks literally agonizing over a slide deck, tweaking fonts, piling on bullet points, only to be met with total blank stares, well, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're unpacking a radically efficient method I came across, Dr. Sheikh Mohammed Rafi's 60-minute AI pitching framework. It's an approach that guarantees absolute clarity and impact, and the crazy part is, it takes just a single hour. Let's get right into it. So think about this. Why do 99% of pitches fail? We usually just assume it's because the core idea is bad, right? Or maybe the market just isn't there. But looking at research based on thousands of startup pitches, the reality is something entirely different. When investors were asked why they passed on an opportunity, the most common answer actually had absolutely nothing to do with the business itself.
Get this. It turns out that 40% of the time, investors reject a pitch simply because it was just too confusing to even make a basic yes or no decision on. Take a second to process that. Nearly half of all rejected pitches fail not because the audience hated the idea, but because they literally had no clue what the idea even was. The presenter just completely lost them in the weeds.
This creates what's known as a massive clarity gap, and it leads to something Dr. Raffi calls the Frankenstein pitch. Picture a super hardworking founder. Let's call him Hari. Hari builds this amazing guitar learning app, but instead of just saying, hey, we help you learn guitar faster, he gets up there and says, this is an advanced pedagogical tool leveraging cutting-edge real-time auditory processing algorithms. I mean, wow. Hari just buried a brilliant idea under an avalanche of jargon. He didn't fail from laziness. He failed because he actually worked way too hard at adding complexity, stitching all these mismatched pieces together over time. To fix this massive gap, Dr. Raffi introduces a truly brilliant foundational rule. First pants, then shoes. Clarity before creation. You absolutely have to get your core story and your clarity locked in before you even think about touching a slide deck. Think about it. If you try building your visuals while you're still figuring out your message, which, let's be honest, is what pretty much all of us do, you're going to end up with a tangled mess. You wouldn't put your shoes on before your pants, right? Same logic applies here. Don't open your presentation software until your story is crystal clear. The contrast here is just staggering. In the pre-AI days, scraping together a simple 5-minute pitch could easily eat up 5 whole days of your life, an absolute time sink. But by leaning into Dr. Raffi's structured AI framework, you can condense that whole grueling week into one single, highly focused 60-minute session, and you get a vastly superior result out of it. Okay, so let's move into step 1, crafting the core story. To build that foundation, it's honestly kind of like playing a game of Mad Libs. Every great pitch is essentially a simple story built on 3 specific pillars. First up, the purpose. What does your audience believe before you start, and what do you want them to believe after? Next is the meat. This covers the 4 Ps: the problem you're tackling, the promise you're making, the proof that you can actually pull it off, and the payoff for the audience. And finally, the close, the exact specific action you want them to take. Now, instead of just staring at a blank screen trying to force those pillars out, you bring AI into the mix. You take your rough, messy thoughts and you feed them into an AI using some very specific prompts to make the AI do the heavy lifting for you. First, you literally tell it, give me a simplified pitch my grandma could understand. That instantly strips away all the Frankenstein jargon. Next, you ask it to rewrite that pitch in various successful formats and give you the top 3. Finally, you just ask for a final recommendation. Literally in under a minute, you have a structured, clear-as-day narrative. And here is where it gets really interesting. When you compare human-written pitches to these AI-assisted ones, the results speak for themselves. Presented blindly to investors, they actually preferred the AI-developed pitches a whopping 80% of the time. Crazy, right? But it makes sense. The AI doesn't get emotionally attached to fancy buzzwords like we do. It prioritizes pure, unfiltered clarity. All right, moving right along to step 2, the secret sauce of brutal feedback. Now, a lot of folks might just stop at step 1 and call it a day, but this next phase, this is the secret sauce. We all know we need feedback to improve, but asking your coworkers is honestly pretty flawed. They don't want to hurt your feelings, they've got their own work to do, and they definitely aren't going to review your pitch for the 30th time at 2 a.m. But AI is the perfect critic. It never gets cranky, it never puts things off, and it will give you brutally honest feedback instantly, day or night. You use targeted prompts to force the AI into playing devil's advocate. You don't ask it if your pitch is good. You command it. Give me 3 reasons this pitch will fail. Then you make it role play. Ask it to provide feedback from the perspective of a skeptical investor and then from a hesitant user. Once it completely tears your pitch apart, you drop the final magic prompt. Merge all this feedback to create a dramatically improved version. The transformation is wild. In less than 10 minutes of running this feedback loop, you take a pitch that might be 90% unclear and just totally crush that unclarity down to 0. Dr. Rafi points out that this quick iteration process rockets your pitch straight into the 80th percentile of quality. And guess what? We're still only a fraction of the way through our 60 minutes. This brings us to step 3, instant slides. Only now, finally, do we put on our shoes. Because your core narrative is absolutely bulletproof, you don't need to manually design slides from scratch. You just paste your polished story into an off-the-shelf AI presentation tool, and it generates a clean, highly visual, non-bullet point slide deck in exactly 57 seconds. It outlines your narrative perfectly and builds the visuals instantly. No more wasting hours just trying to align a bunch of text boxes. So let's look at the math here. Because the AI handled all the heavy lifting, the narrative structure, the harsh feedback, the actual slide design, you have a ton of time left. In a standard 1-hour window, you've got about 19 minutes remaining just to practice being a human. You get to focus entirely on your delivery, your pacing, your eye contact. Way better than frantically typing out slides right up until the buzzer, right? Okay, let's pull all of this together. Step 1, craft the story with AI using those targeted change prompts. Step 2, get brutal, diverse AI feedback and iterate on it. Step 3, generate the visual slides in seconds and actually practice your delivery. If you follow these exact steps in this specific order, Dr. Rafi guarantees you will never deliver a confusing, terrible pitch ever again. I love this brilliant little flip on Albert Einstein's famous problem-solving quote. It perfectly captures the whole first pants, then shoes philosophy. If you have 1 hour to make the pitch of your life, invest 55 minutes working with AI to craft your story, then spend 5 minutes making your slides. Your slides are literally just the packaging. Your story is the actual product. Spend your time refining the message, and just let the tech handle the formatting at the very end. So the next time you need to persuade an investor, maybe ask your boss for a raise, or win over a tough new customer, I've got a challenge for you. Will you step away from that blank PowerPoint slide? Will you give this hour-long AI-driven framework a shot and finally close the clarity gap? Give it 60 minutes, follow the steps, and watch your success rate completely skyrocket. The question isn't really whether AI can build your pitch anymore. It's whether you're willing to let go of all that busy work so your message can finally be heard. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer.